Hello everyone, today we are talking about the Book of Many Things, the Deck of Many Things, all in one. First off, tell me about this product. I'm really excited for it because we do get a book, player options, adventure hooks, all this content, and then we physically get cards.
This is a new kind of product. We've never done anything like this before. It's a box set. You get 2 books and 66 cards. So let's start with the cards. You get 66 tarot-sized Deck of Many Things cards with gold foil edges and a unique gold foil treatment on each card. This triples the size of the deck, so you have the original classic deck of 22 cards, but then you also get the 44 more new cards, which we call the Deck of Many More Things. And we did this so that you could deck build your deck. The idea that you can build a Deck of Many Things that's perfect for your table and for your players and for the story that you want to tell, right? And you can just include the cards that you want. So that's the deck. Then we have an 80-page hardback reference guide to the cards that illustrates every card and gives all of their interpretive meanings. Every card has a place, a person, a monster or hazard, a treasure, and a situation. And then, because the card can be reversed or upside down, there's 5 more meanings for all of those. So every card can be read 10 different ways, depending on where it appears in the spread and whether it's face up or upside down. And the guidebook also explains how to use it as an oracle deck. We have a bunch of sample spreads, 1 card, 3 card, 5 card spreads for using the deck, and the adventure spread, which is a way that a DM can use the Deck of Many Things to outline an adventure. You place 9 cards in a particular pattern. You start off with a card that represents the players, the party, before the adventure starts. You know, they're at the tavern, or they're having a party, or whatever it might be. And then another card crosses over that to be the sort of inciting event, the thing that kicks the adventure off. Some guy staggers into the tavern with an arrow in his chest and a map in his hand, you know, like whatever. And that's the second card. Then you have a card for the journey that represents the journey to the adventure, a card for the doorway, the entrance to the adventure, whatever it might be, and then a number of challenges. We use 3 in our example, but you might have more or fewer depending on how much time you have in your game session. And then a final treasure card with the guardian card over top of it, protecting it, right? Let me tell you how I knew that this system worked. So James Wyatt made this whole system work. I came up with the basic idea for the adventure spread, but Wyatt is the person that executed it and made it work. And to test it, he picked 9 cards from the classic deck, and he laid them out in the adventure spread, and he created an adventure from it. And we reprint that in the book.
Oh, nice.
So you have a sample.
Yeah.
The same one that James used to test it. But then, Dan Dillon, who's also a writer on this project, took the same cards, rearranged them, and placed them out in a new order, just shuffled them. And then he made a different adventure with those same 9 cards. And then Carl Sibley, who's also a writer on this project, did the same thing again.
Yeah.
And when I knew that we had made 3 different adventures, wildly different adventures from the same 9 cards, that's when I knew that it worked. So that's the cards and the guidebook.
Right.
Then we get this. We get the Book of Many Things, which is 192 pages of almost every kind of game content that exists for D&D, right? So you've got character options, like there's a feat, this cartomancer feat, there's new spells, there's 2 new backgrounds, there's 50 magic items, but then there's also the stuff that isn't in our everything books. You have over 35 new stat blocks or monsters. You've got complete adventure locations for every level, some of which are very sandboxy. Like there's no path through this adventure. It's like, here's a mountain with the ruins on it where a dragon lives, and here's all these other creatures that live in that area. How do your players want to tackle this, right? And it's very sandboxy. Others are more classic dungeon oriented, and we have complete organizations, like a thieves guild made up completely of were creatures. So werewolves and the new werevulture. And if you want to join the thieves guild, you have to get bitten and be made a were creature.
Yeah, I'm down.
Everything. The idea is that it's a toy box book.
Yeah.
You can just flip to a random chapter and get your mind blown by whatever's in it.
This is very appealing for a dungeon master like myself.
Yeah.
Because I either do way too much prep or not enough. I don't have a good middle ground. So this Just the idea of being able to lay out cards and build
Yes.
an adventure are also, like you mentioned, like
Yes.
this is a toy box of ideas. And this
Yes.
is very appealing for someone who's been not only dungeon mastering for a really long time,
Yes.
or is just starting out.
Let me give you an example of some of the solutions that we wanted to include in this book, because the Deck of Many Things has a somewhat troubled history as a magic item which destroys campaigns, right?
And now we wanted to build them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make the deck easier to use and only as chaotic as you want it to be.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take away all the danger of the deck. Rather, I want to make it just as dangerous as you and your players want it to be. So, for example, you talk about prep. Sometimes you prep a lot, sometimes you don't prep at all. Okay. Well, the deck is hard on DMs like that because let's say you draw the flames, a player draws the flames card. Well, the flames card says that you have attracted the enmity of a powerful fiend. Well, now the DM's gotta make that fiend up and all of their minions, and why do they hate you? Or you can turn to the flames chapter in our book, which includes 3 powerful fiends of different challenge ratings with different modus operandi and different minions and different plots, and you can just pick one. Okay?
Nice.
If a character draws the knight card, they gain the service of a 4th level fighter. Well, but the DM's guide doesn't give you a stat block for that fighter. And why are they helping you?
Yeah.
Are they helping you because you drew the card? So instead, we include a construct made of playing cards, the Deck Defender,
Nice.
that appears and serves you. And it's got a sort of fighter manifestation, but it can also reshuffle itself into a barbarian or a monk,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
And it's a construct and it obeys your instructions. So we give the DM what they need, but we also provide alternatives. Well, maybe you do want them to meet a fighter, meet a warrior that helps them. Well, here's some ideas on how that might happen in play. Traditionally, the Deck of Many Things has a bit of a cosmic slot machine kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Like you pull on the lever and something incredible happens.
It may be good, it may be bad.
Yeah, it may be good or it may be bad. It doesn't have to work that way. The deck does not have to work that way. What if instead it foreshadows future events of the campaign? So if you draw the knight card, a knight can literally just show up, like magically appear out of nowhere and serve you. But maybe it means that you're going to meet a knight in your next adventure who will join your party. Right? So then we give you a bunch of options for the DM, like, well, what kind of knight, what kind of warrior is it? And why are they joining the party? And here's some advice and guidance on how to do that, right? And we carry this throughout the entire book. So maybe when you draw the gem card, you are literally showered in money, which is what the DM's guide says. But maybe it just means that you find money, or money comes, maybe you win the lottery, or maybe a member of your family dies and you get their inheritance. So the deck becomes a foretelling of your destiny rather than an instant magical effect, which you can still do, but we provide guidance to give you options and choices.
That's a lot. That's a lot of content all in one spot.
And I haven't even gotten into some of the coolest bits of this book.
Well, what are some of the coolest bits?
So we've got a whole chapter of puzzles, riddles, and traps that are all inspired by the deck. So a list of 22 riddles that are all have the deck as answers, puzzles and trap rooms. We have the sky of many things, a zodiac of 12 constellations in the sky that in our origin story of the deck served as the original inspiration for the cards themselves. We'll get into this. We talk about where the deck comes from because we created a new origin story for the deck. We have definitively said in the D&D multiverse, this is where the deck comes from, why it was made, and who it was made for, which the game has never done before. In that story, Istis, the goddess of fate in the Greyhawk setting, reaches up into the sky and pulls down constellations from the sky and makes them into cards. And that's where the Deck of Many Things comes from. Well, so that means the stars predate the deck. So in our star chapter, you will find the sky of many things, which allows you to find out what the star sign of your character is.
Nice.
And what is the prophecy associated with that star sign? If you were born under the star sign of the rogue, well, rogues are famous for betrayal and treachery. So is your character fated to betray someone? And like every other astrology, it comes with, favorite creature and favorite color and favorite gemstone and all those associations of astrology. So lots of character, kind of, narrative role-playing stuff that you can lean into or reject, depending on whether or not your character wants to get into astrology or not.
Yeah.
And that chapter also includes a map of some observatories with some adventure hooks and a telescope that will shoot you across the multiverse.
Nice.
Yeah, so every chapter is packed with as many just crazy, mind-blowing ideas that we could fit in there. Whole chapter of monsters. Another chapter that details the Grim Harrow. For those of you that remember the deck, if you draw the skull card, it summons an avatar of death.
Yeah.
And you have to fight it by yourself. If anybody else tries to help you, they get their own avatar of death, right? Well, what happens when the avatar of death kills you? Well, the answer is you become an undead. And like all the other victims of the skull card, you are drawn to a demi-plane.
Nice.
Where all of these undead killed by the skull card live. Or unlive.
Oh, yeah.
And they now hunt throughout the multiverse to find every copy of the Deck of Many Things and destroy it. Because that's the only way that their undead curse will end. They call themselves the Grim Harrow. And they are an undead wild hunt that travels through the multiverse, hunting down your Deck of Many Things to destroy it and anybody who gets in their way. Turns every Deck of Many Things into a ticking time bomb.
That's fantastic.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's also good aligned groups, like the Knights of the Solar Bastion, which you will find in the Sun chapter. They live on this giant metal plate that orbits a star. And they patrol the multiverse to warn people that find the deck about its dangers. And they're benevolent, they're a good group, but they're stretched very thin across an infinite multiverse, so they always need help, right? They're patrons, quest givers, potential allies. And the book is filled with all kinds of these organizations or locations that you can drop into your game. Multiple chapters deal with how the players could get a Deck of Many Things. We have a mid-level or high-level adventure location where we go back to the location of Gardmore Abbey, the Ruins of Gardmore Abbey box set, which have a lot of loyal fans, and the Deck of Many Things was integral to that adventure. Well, so we go back to that location. But now the dragon that used to live in the basement has gotten bigger, and now lays atop the mountain, and the Deck of Many Things is in his hoard. So if you can deal with him, you can get the deck there. But maybe you want something a little bit lower level,
Right.
a little bit more role-playing focused.
Yeah.
Well, now you can go to the Fairy Market, run by a Moonstone Dragon, where Ottlewin, the Nilbog, will read your future with a curated Deck of Many Things, a little 8-card deck of mostly low-level problems and good things. There are some bad cards in there, but they're things that you can work through. And Ottlewin will read your future and let you draw from the deck if you will pay his price.
Nice.
Right? There has never been an official origin for the deck, but there have been suggested origins or rumors or stories that people tell about the deck in the various versions of our game. And we homage all of those while also creating our new origin. And Mackenzie de Armas, one of the designers on this book, really took the lead on this and created the characters of Asteria and Uriel. And Asteria's on the cover. Uriel's on the back. There's 22 cards in the classic deck, but only one of them has a name. Uriel is the only card in the deck that has a personal name.
Yeah.
So she's obviously important to the deck. And she's older than the deck. She has to predate the deck if it's got her name in it. So Uriel is a reclusive and benevolent Medusa druid. And Asteria is a princess, former princess of a coastal kingdom. And she's autistic. And in an accident, she got swept away by the waters and discovered Uriel's lair. Well, as Mackenzie puts this, and I can't tell the story as good as her, if your best friend is a Medusa, not meeting eye contact is a really good habit to have. And that was where the idea came. And Mackenzie really leaned into it, and she did a ton of work on it. And she's created this fantastic character, the first autistic protagonist in D&D. Deck was created because Uriel and Asteria get in trouble. Uriel's imprisoned, and Asteria tries to rescue her, but the odds are too great. And finally, she gets the attention of Istis, the goddess of fate, and says, listen, we're going to rewrite our destiny. We're going to get a new fate. And that's where the cards come in. So the deck is created for Asteria to save Uriel. And they've had a lifetime of adventures ever since. Uriel's mostly retired now. She lives in the Outlands, and they've got a home together there. But Asteria has never aged since that moment. Her life seems somehow tied to the deck, that maybe as long as the deck exists, she can't die. And so she's continued to have a long adventuring career. But they serve narratively as a source of truth about the deck, a source of information. So if the players want a copy of the deck, or they've got one and they don't know how to use it, they don't know what its dangers are, or maybe they've used it and they've gotten some bad cards and they need to fix some pretty bad problems. Maybe one of them has had their soul whisked off to the void, or they become trapped in the donjon. Asteria can help them fix those problems if they can earn her trust. There's 2 new backgrounds. One's called the Rewarded and the other is the Ruined. And the idea is they are for characters whose lives have been transformed by the deck or by some other important life-changing event, right? So maybe you were on top of the world. You were successful in your career, you had a happy family life, everything was going right for you, and then you drew a card from the deck of many things, or some other terrible thing happened, and now you've lost it all.
Yeah.
And now you are an adventurer out of desperation, because all other career options are lost to you. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's the Ruined. Or the opposite. You were pretty desperate. Maybe your life was pretty rough. Tragedy has struck you. You're struggling to get by. But then, a draw from the deck of many things, and suddenly you have magic powers, or you're fabulously rich, or whatever. And now you can do the one thing you've always wanted to do with your life, go on an adventure, right? So both of these 2 new backgrounds, the Rewarded and the Ruined, like our other backgrounds in recent products, include free feats. In this case, you pick from a collection of feats that are in the player's handbook. And the feat that you choose represents how you have survived or what you gained when the life-transforming event took place.
Oh, perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
We have 4 chapters that are kind of specifically aimed at the various character groups. So there's a chapter for warrior types, a chapter for arcane casters, a chapter for religious characters, and a chapter for kind of skill-focused characters like the rogue, the bard. And all of these chapters have a character background, a table where you can draw a card from the deck of many things to get an idea about your character's background, right? Some element of narrative that goes into your character's story.
Nice.
We have a whole chapter in this book on how to use cards as in your game to do everything from random monster generation to NPC creation.
And PC creation, really.
And player character creation, exactly. So cards are a wonderful physical tool that in some ways have a lot of advantages over dice. Dice are fun. I love my math rocks. But there are things that cards can do that sometimes a die roll is a little bit not quite so good at. For example, I need to randomize a number from 1 to 22 because I've got 22 cards in this deck.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy to do with cards, right? And also you can manipulate the deck. So you can create an encounter deck, for example. Let's say you have 2 different decks that you've built of monster encounters. And as the players go through the first deck, things get more dangerous. As they explore the forest, things get more dangerous, and you start putting in cards from the second deck, which is like the Undead Ruins, right?
Right.
And every monster they encounter, that card gets taken out, and a new, more dangerous card gets put in, right? That sort of deck manipulation stuff is very easy to do with cards, but harder with dice.
Right.
And that's just an example of some of the many tools that this chapter offers. This is also an interesting element because we have renamed 2 of the cards. 2 of the cards in the classic deck. One called the Idiot, and one called the Vizier.
Right.
And we have renamed those. So the Idiot is now the Puzzle. Same game effect, drains your intelligence. And the Vizier is now the Sage. Same effect. And the Puzzle chapter has our trap rooms and our puzzles and our riddles. And the Sage chapter is the one dedicated to arcane spellcasters. That's where you will find the new Cartomancer feat that allows you to use cards as your arcane spellcasting focus and allows you to put a card up your sleeve with a spell in it.
Yeah.
So you can take a card, put a spell in it, slide it up your sleeve, and then cast it as a bonus action at some point, whenever you want. And there are a few new spells in there as well. There's 44 new cards in the deck of many things. And we divided those into 4 groups. heroes, treasures, monsters, so there's a card for every creature type, and then about half of the new cards are what I call landmarks. They're just like things that you would encounter on an adventure. The door, the crossroads, the bridge, things like that. The cavern, the maze. And all of these cards are designed to make the adventure spread that we talked about earlier work better, right? So you've got lots of monster cards, lots of cool landmarks to encounter on your adventure. But they also all have in-game effects on par with the cards in the original deck. So if you draw the ring card, you get a magical ring. And if you have an attunement slot open, you're automatically attuned to it, right? We also went back and gave all of the original cards in the deck individual magic powers that you can use every day. That is, you don't need to have the entire deck to benefit from the cards now. And this creates a treasure hunt quest where you find one card, or maybe one card per player, and they each have a magical power that you can use to find the other cards.
Nice.
And now you slowly assemble the deck, and you have to travel the multiverse and gather the deck together. And then once your deck is complete, then you can draw from it.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. What are your Dungeon Master tips for those who are wanting to use the Book of Many Things?
The first thing I would suggest is don't be intimidated by the reputation of the deck. We have done everything that we can in this book to make it easier for you to use. The Deck of Many Things is unlike any other magic item in D&D because it has this tactile, physical representation. You can take a deck of cards as the DM, and you can put it in front of the players, and then you can feel the tension as they think about drawing from it, right? There's no other game prop, there's no other mechanical, like, magic item in the game that quite has that anxiety, energy, excitement to it. And so take advantage of that as a DM. You can take the cards, you can create an adventure based on the cards. And then when the players go on the adventure, they can meet a fortune teller who reads their future and reveals the cards you used to create the adventure. So that they have clues to what's coming. And then when they encounter those challenges and when they find that treasure in that guardian, they're like, oh, that was the dragon card, right? And this is something that you can't do with other magic items. Keep the cards that you want, set aside the card that you don't want until later. We even, because you created them the same size as regular tarot cards, you can deck build with other cards. If you've got a favorite tarot card that's not in the deck, just put it in there. Give it a meaning and give it a magic power, and now you've made the Deck of Many Things even more your own. I have to give a call out to our amazing art director, Bree Heiss, and the whole art team. We had graphic designers and all of the fantastic freelance artists that we hired to create this. 66 new cards is a tall order. That is no small thing to ask for. They came out fantastic. The cards feel beautiful in your hand. They're lovely to shuffle and manipulate. The guidebook that illustrates each card is a lavish deluxe book, an art book worthy of any table, any collection, any bookshelf, anywhere. And the art for the original cards is so gorgeous. Every card has an individual foil treatment that's unique to it. The art team just did such a fantastic job. All the artists are so wonderful, and I'm so grateful.
This has been true of everything that we've had coming out in D&D for 2014.
Yes.
And forward, this is compatible with 2024's core rule books as well.
Absolutely.
Just like Big B's, Phandelver, Planescape, this is all one system.
There is nothing in this book that you are not going to be able to use when the rules update comes out next year.
Yeah.
We did that on purpose. In fact, you'll see the new names of the Deck of Many Things, the cards, the new card names, in the DM's guide when it comes out, right? The spells, the feats, the character backgrounds, the other options that are in here are all absolutely 100% the same game system that we've been using and that we continue to use.